right. In comparison to that, he stunk it up, you know. But you got to think. You got to think. I'm going to tell you this. I said this before. There's only one Tom Brady. There's only one Peyton Manning. There's only one Drew Brees. You know, guys like that. There's only one, Warren Moon. There's only one Joe Montana. You know, I can go on and on. But what I'm saying is there's only a handful of guys that be in the league that's like that can just by themselves will a team, to be better. And then there's other quarterbacks that are very good, but they still need assistance. They still need help. And Colin Kaepernick, he had an awesome defense. He had Frank Gore running in the backfield who was healthy all the time. Carlos Hyde is not healthy all the time. He gets hurt. Colin can't do anything about that. Now, can Colin do something about his game? Yes. Again, like I said, I'm not letting him off the hook. He could have played better, and he needed to play better. But don't act like this is just like... Don't act like this is a Houston Texans situation where you had this defense and all these pieces around or whatever, and then everyone was looking at your quarterback situation as the weak link. That wasn't San Francisco's situation. You had Patrick Willis, who retired. NaVorro Bowman had season-ending injuries. Frank Gore left. You didn't want to re-sign Crabtree, so he left. And ain't no telling all the other guys that you lost off that team or you cut them or whatever. Alden Smith got into trouble, so he wasn't even in the league. It was so many items going on there that you can't pin it all on Colin. Colin has a lot to do with it. But if you're going to say that Blaine Gabbert is still on the team. Maybe that's what I should just say. Blaine Gabbert is still on the team. He didn't have the greatest season last year himself. But, and all I'm saying, I'm not saying that he has to be on a team. I'm just talking about invited to a camp where he can try out. That's it. That's all that I think he should be doing, is that in somebody's camp, at least trying out for the team. I'm not saying that he should be starting or some of these other folks are out there saying that. No, that's not what I'm saying. Shouts out to GRF, Jack Sharks, Arena, NAL champs. He's out the door. So appreciate you dropping in, GRF. Be safe out there, man. So we have to be careful when we're saying, certain, especially, when we are saying stuff that everyone is listening to and it's a hot topic. Am I going to crucify Michael Vick for his comments? No. Have I said something that was ridiculous? Yes. That's what it was. So let's not go to the disrespect, is what I'm saying. There's no problem with talking to Mike saying, Mike, you got to understand, man, especially for someone who didn't like to be judged by their image. Because there are guys that's out there, people have pointed it out. I think Shannon Sharp pointed it out. Kawhi Leonard got braids. Nobody says anything about Kawhi and his braids. They just say, oh, Kawhi's so quiet. He's a lovable guy. He's a hard player. He works hard, and all this stuff. Now, Kawhi didn't do what Colin did, but that would probably change it a little bit. But we got to be, we got to be smarter when people say stuff to get to the root. That's what I'm really trying to preach here. I'm not here to staple or nail, Michael Vick to the wall or anything like that. It's just you got to understand the situation. They don't agree. He didn't break any laws, commit a crime. He didn't hurt anyone. He didn't steal from anyone. There's people that protest all the time that we don't, agree with what they're protesting about. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But you gotta be fair, about it. So that's my thought. That's my, opinion, on the whole Michael Vick talking about Cap cutting his hair. It's not gonna help out, man. Stop talking about that, Michael Vick cutting hair. No temp fade is gonna save any brother in America. Trust me on that. No one is gonna say, man, he got that freaky part in his head. Now he's ready to go. He's ready to take on the world. He's ready. Yeah, come on, let's do this. No. He needs to talk with Oprah. That's the only way. You never can go wrong talking with Oprah. So we'll get off that, and we're going to go into my second review, NFL review. We talked about the AFC West last week. Now we're going to talk about the AFC South. And we're going to go through this whole division or conference, and then we'll finish up with the NFC. So if you got any quirks or qualms about, my picks or whatever, or if you just want to throw in the order which you think the division is going to play out from worst to first, throw that in the chat. I'll shout it out here on the show as well if you want to do that. But AFC South review. So last year, a little bit of a different season for the AFC South. So you had Houston, who won the AFC South. They finished 9-7, but the Titans also finished 9-7. But of course, there was some tiebreakers, blah blah blah, in there because Houston had a better division record. But Titans finished second, Colts finished third at 8-8, and the Jags, bringing up the rear, finished at 3-13. So that was your finish. Your division finish or your win-loss records and worst to first for the AFC South. So this year, I'm looking at some of the moves some of these teams made. I'm looking at the possibility, the potential. Because again, I'm just trying to base it off of what we got right now. No injuries, no nothing. We'll know that'll play a part. No beefs or whatever. So let's start with a team I think will finish fourth in the division, finish last. You're going to be surprised by this. I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. Yes, they finished second and they were tied for first. And I know you're like, wow, wait a minute, July, why would you pick the Titans? Look what they did. Here's what they did. Here to me, they're still on the rise, but I think last year was a little bit of a different season. I don't have them 3-13 or anything like that, like the Jags. I think they still will compete, in the AFC South, and they'll give some folks some trouble. But they have to shore up their defense. Last year they finished 20th in defense, which is it's not the worst, but you definitely got to be better. Now, they did finish 11th in offense, but here's the thing about their offense. They were third in rushing and 25th in the pass. So obviously their bread and butter is with the running game. What do you think going to happen this year? People are going to prepare for the run game, and they're going to try and force Mariota to throw the ball. You're going to have to beat us. They don't want Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray running all over them. Because guess what? We all know if you establish your run game and you ground and pound and all that stuff, by the time the fourth quarter comes, you done beat down your defense, your opponents, and they get tired. So, but they're going to stop. They're going to basically prepare to stop the running game. They're 20th in defense. That's not good. They did add Eric Decker, to the team. Excuse me. That will help out, at the wide receiver position. So you got good, but not great wide receivers. I like Rashard Matthews. I like the draft pick of Corey Davis. I like to pick up Eric Decker as well. Tajay Sharp is still on that team. And you got that man, Delaney Walker, who's a beast, at your tight end spot. So you have very nice pieces, at your wide receiver or your receiving, core. But we know Decker is not a number one. Corey Davis, that's too much really to ask on a rookie. If he has an awesome season, that's going to be great. That could change, the how this thing plays out. But he's on a learning process as well. So I got them finishing fourth for those reasons. I just think at some point, it's going to catch up a little bit, with their running game. With that two-headed monster, they're going to find out, DCs are going to find out a way to slow that thing down. So, third on this, and I went back and forth on this, because when I tell you this, you're going to be like, oh my gosh. I went back and forth on these two teams, because I was like, man, yeah, I'll go second, third, whatever. But I'm going to stick with my initial gut. I'm going to put the Colts, the Indianapolis Colts at number 3. Strictly for the fact of, can Andrew Luck stay on the field? That's the problem. Andrew Luck take hits that he don't need to take. And he has to be smarter about that. He has to get out of the pocket. I mean, when he gets out of the pocket, he has to get out of bounds. Some of those plays that where he be taking those hits when he in the pocket don't need to be taken. He's coming off an injury, so we don't know how well he's going to be. The run game is in question. They picked up Marlon Mack out of the draft, but Frank Gore continues to prove people wrong the older that he gets, but it still is going to be a question. It's always going to be a question. It was the same thing with Andre Johnson. It was just like, man, Andre Johnson seems like he'll never get old. And then at one point, everything just changed. I don't know, what it was, but Andre Johnson fell off that cliff. He wasn't putting up the numbers, regardless of what it was. He wasn't putting up the numbers of what he recently were doing. Can Frank Gore continue that to establish that running game? But we were talking about the Titans and their defense. Colts defense was even worse. They were 30th in defense. 10th in offense. So, T.Y. Hilton and those boys, yeah. You got Jack Doyle. Is he going to be, that their tight end? Is he going to be the Jack Doyle he was last year when people start, focusing in on you? I don't know, but you got to fix the defense. Now, they did go in the draft and pick up some defense, but again, they're rookies. How much are you going to, look for them? I don't, here's the thing. When getting success out of rookies, especially on defense or a skilled position, is very difficult. Atlanta had pretty good linebacker play and safety play from Deion Jones and Keanu O'Neal. They still made their mistakes. That normally doesn't happen like that, when coming to a team. So I'm going to put them at third. I think they'll still stay around 500, along with the Titans. And it'll be a building process. Now, if they can do anything with this defense, of course, that would change. But as of right now, 30th, you got to do something about it. So that leaves my top 2. And I'm not going to get too crazy. But the Jags, I got them at number 2. And I know you're thinking, what? What? Yes, number 2. And I was talking with Lopan. He put me on to some important stuff, or he thought, some stuff that really, ran my mind. Indeed. Yeah, Lopan, I'm giving you credit. I'm giving you credit for actually, talking something that made sense or logical. So the reason I got them at number 2, finishing up in the division, first and foremost, Leonard Fournette. And Leonard Fournette, I am not going to say he's Zeke Elliott, but he brings the same potential of what Zeke brought to the Cowboys. The second thing is Leonard Fournette. Yeah, I'm saying it again because guess what? If you establish